Yeah, I came back to the same place as last video, and nope, this time I'm not talking about Blingham camera. Blingham camera? Bags. Well, because the camera this time is just so bloody heavy. I still have to get my driving license here. I don't have a car, so there's no way I can take this to take a train for an hour to the city. So yeah, this is the Roland 4D. I got it in my hands. Now on the web, mostly people are really positive about this camera. Yo, it's blow my mind, I never thought of this. Revolutionary, yeah. But then I have doubts from the beginning, like, yeah, it's a cinema camera. But what's wrong with putting a cinema camera on a gimbal? It works. It always worked before. And definitely you can't use a huge or tele lens on this camera. But let's first talk about what this camera is. Full frame sensor on a gimbal, but this is a DL mount, and DL mount is they use DJI DL mount lenses, and for now there are only 3 full frame lenses. But fortunately, you can change it to something else. This is the Sony E mount. You can have a M mount as well, and it's off. So very easily, you just pop this on. On top, what is this? This is for the LiDAR focusing sensor. And from here, you just balance it like any other gimbal. But the thing is, the balancing arm here, this bit is actually this short. It's not much to it. So now with this lens, this is not a huge lens, but it's still a little bit front heavy, and I have already pushed it to the furthest back. DJI say that there are weights you can add later. There will be this weight, counterweights you can add later. But that's still one problem, is that the gimbal payload, which I will talk about it later. So in front, yeah, of course, it works like a normal gimbal. You got follow mode, you got FPV, all this kind of thing. Of course, you watch this video, don't just want to look at a normal gimbal, you want to look at this. Extended. All this other than a normal gimbal thing, it stabilizes this, the ZSS, the CSS. It's really funny to look at. Just like other axes, you have to balance this Z-axis, and it has a helpful graph to help you balance it. But when I was testing it, it would just go out of balance after I balance it according to the system. And when I'm balancing it, I have to turn it so many times for it to show anything. But this is a prototype. I hope they can improve this in future firmwares. So you can say there are things that stabilize this Z-axis before. It's usually use some spring to do it, but this is not just using some spring. Those are just mechanical, but this is electronical. And this is just, it is not just rely on accelerometer or gimbal or whatever. It actually just like a DJI drone. Remember DJI make drones? It got sensor at the bottom. It got a time of flight sensor. I'm not sure is it infrared or laser, but there's a light, infrared, invisible light shining to the floor and detect the height. And then there are 2 cameras pointing downward as well. So it got a 3D sensing. Even in front, there are 2 cameras in front as well. I'm not too sure what the front camera for. It's kind of for aware of surrounding. It's combined all that to make this absolutely on the same height. Look at that. We can go into the menu and then set to Z-axis follow. So now it's stabilized and it follow your up and down movement as well. So it will from low to high, it follow, but it stabilize your shaking. Now if I keep the Z-axis turned off and I walk normally, it looks like this. The footage go ups and down a little bit when I walk. But when I turn on the Z-axis, it was just so smooth. There's no effort from me to keep it stable as well. And not just walking slowly. If I walk a little bit faster, I tried it before with Kai. This is just so smooth. It looks like a Steadicam, and a Steadicam is like how many times heavier than this. really bright, yeah. And it's still too bright, so we have built-in ND. I mean, this is quite amazing that for the camera this small, and it's not just 1 or 2 stops, 9 stops. Because this is a Sony camera, I mean not a Sony camera, this is a Sony lens. I actually can control everything on this lens, so like aperture and focus. With the front view here, this is really convenient. So now you can do focusing and it's really smooth. With a tap of a button, now it changed to its control ND filter. The wheel here actually got click, it got click and declick electronically, because before I attach it, it is really smooth. After I attach it, if it is focusing mode, it got a bit of resistance. But when I'm going to controlling iris, it is smooth. If I change it to ISO, it got clicks. This is freaking amazing. Now the sensor itself doesn't have face detection AF, so it relies on this sensor. And this works with DL, the DJI DL lenses, of course. But then it also works with other lenses. It even works with manual focus lenses. That's one thing good about this sensor. But the thing is, with other sensors, you have to calibrate it. Now I have to say I have very limited time with this camera, so when I calibrate it, I make some mistakes. I shouldn't calibrate it focusing on infinity distance because this sensor only works within 10 meters. Other reviews on the web prove that there's no problem with third-party lenses. I've also tried this with Kai with a DJI original lens and it works well, really well, even if I was running. And with this, the only complaint I have with this is the focusing speed is just too fast. It just slaps to focus rather than a nice focus pull, just like many other mirrorless cameras. But I'm sure this could be correct with firmware easily. After all, an external sensor to do focusing, I didn't expect it works so well. But also there's a concern about what kind of lenses you can use with this. DJI provide a list of lenses for you that you can use on this camera, but you can also already figure out, because even though this my Sony 16-35, this is not a big lens, and this is already the limit of the balancing. And also there's a limit for that the Z-axis arm. This arm can only take 2 kilograms. This sounds quite a lot, but in fact, take 2 kilograms, it is talking about 2 kilogram payload, just this arm. And the payload is including this whole bit. So this whole bit without lens is already around 1 kilogram. So you can only put a 1 kilogram lens on this. Can you turn off the gimbal, lock everything down and just use it like a normal camera? Because this is really great cinema camera, it takes ProRes RAW or that 6K, 8K. But then when you lock it down, it still wobble quite a lot. Some people try to put on a lens support to mount the lens on that. Yeah, it kind of works, but still really clunky. And it kind of like, what's the point of getting this and not using the gimbal? Because it's almost like, oh, you got a normal gimbal and then lock everything down and use it like a tripod. The thing is, if we talk about the weight, Red Camera and Z Camera both release a 6K full frame camera, which they both are around 1 kilogram. DJI RS2 is around 1.2 kilogram. For Z-axis stabilization, around 1 kilogram. So all of them combined would be a little bit over 3 kilogram without a lens. But the Roland 4D starts with over 3 kg without a lens. It's just a really heavy camera. And remember, these two cameras are just camera. You can use them by themselves and you can use long lenses. So that's it. This is the DJI Roland 4D. The name also already suggests that Roland. So to me, this is a gimbal. This is not a camera. This is actually a gimbal. You use it like a gimbal. You can't replace a camera with this. But this is still an amazing tech, and probably not many people would get this for their own just main camera, and maybe this is good for rental. Then that's good. You rent it for that specific shot.